The massive chamber on Xerion Prime buzzed with excited voices. Representatives from across the galaxy filled the curved seats, their alien forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. At the center of it all sat the Galactic Council, the most powerful beings in known space. Ambassador Kim Min-jun sat quietly in the small human section. His dark suit looked plain compared to the glittering robes and armor around him. Other delegates pointed at him and whispered. Some laughed. The human looked small and weak among the giants of the galaxy. Chancellor Vex-Tar stood up. His tall, blue-skinned form towered over the podium. Golden marks covered his face, showing his high rank among the Zephyrian people. His voice boomed across the chamber. Today marks a great day for galactic justice, Vex-Tar announced. For 200 years, the human species has owed a debt to our galaxy, a debt born from their crimes during the Terran War. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Kim Min-jun's face showed no emotion. He simply listened. The humans destroyed 3 star systems, Vex-Tar continued. Billions of innocent lives were lost. Entire worlds turned to ash. The cost of rebuilding, the cost of caring for refugees, the cost of healing our wounded galaxy came to 500 trillion galactic credits. Admiral Korthak of the Hegemony slammed his massive fist on his desk. The reptilian warrior's scales gleamed under the chamber lights. The primitives thought we would forget. They thought time would erase their crimes. But we remember, Vex-Tar said. And today, we call in their debt. The full amount, due immediately. The chamber erupted in cheers and roars of approval. Species that had never agreed on anything before, united in their joy. Finally, the weak humans would pay for their past. Kim Min-jun stood slowly. The noise died down as all eyes turned to him. He walked to the center of the chamber, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Honorable Council, Kim Min-jun said, his voice calm and clear. The Terran Federation acknowledges the debt you speak of. More whispers spread through the crowd. Some delegates seemed surprised that the human admitted guilt so easily. However, Kim Min-jun continued, 500 trillion credits is indeed a large sum. Earth's entire economy produces only 10 billion credits per year. It would take us 50,000 years to pay such an amount. Chancellor Vex-Tar smiled, showing sharp teeth. Then perhaps you should have thought of that before you started a war you could not finish. We humans are a practical people, Kim Min-jun replied. We understand that debts must be paid. But we request time to gather Earth's final response to your demand. Your final response? Admiral Korthak laughed, a sound like grinding stone. What response could primitives like you possibly have? Your ships are barely faster than light. Your weapons are chemical and nuclear toys. You have nothing, we fear. Kim Min-jun nodded politely. Even so, we request 72 hours to prepare our reply. The council members looked at each other. Some seemed amused. Others appeared bored. What could humans possibly do in 3 days that would matter? Very well, Chancellor Vex-Tar said, waving his hand dismissively. 72 hours. Use them wisely, human. Prepare your people for what comes next. Your colonies will be divided among the true powers of this galaxy. Your homeworld will become a monument to the price of defying galactic law. Kim Min-jun bowed slightly. Thank you for your patience, Honorable Council. Earth will not forget your generosity. As the human ambassador walked toward the exit, delegates from other species called out to him. Run home to your mudball planet, primitive. Maybe we'll keep some of you as pets. The age of human independence ends today. Kim Min-jun paused at the chamber door. He turned back to face the thousands of alien faces, all watching him with amusement and contempt. For just a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Something that might have been pity. Honorable delegates, he said softly, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's perfect acoustics. I hope you enjoy these next 3 days. They may be the last peaceful ones you see for a very long time. Before anyone could ask what he meant, Kim Min-jun was gone. In the corridor outside, the human ambassador walked alone. His calm mask never slipped, even as alien security guards followed at a distance, watching for any sign of desperation or panic. They saw nothing but a man walking steadily toward his fate. Kim Min-jun reached his private quarters in the diplomatic wing. The room was simple, with basic furniture and a small window showing Zerion Prime's purple sky. He sat at the plain desk and pulled out a small device no bigger than his thumb. The device looked like a simple communication unit. Most species in the galaxy used similar tools, but this one was different. It had been waiting for this moment for 200 years. Kim Min-jun pressed a single button. Far across the galaxy, other devices received the signal. On Earth, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, lights began to glow in chambers that had been dark for centuries. On distant asteroid bases hidden in the void between stars, massive engines hummed to life. On colony worlds, where humans seemed to live as simple farmers and workers, underground facilities started their wake-up procedures. The signal reached every corner of human space and beyond. It traveled to places the Galactic Council didn't even know existed. It woke systems that had been sleeping, waiting for the day when patience would end and truth would finally be revealed. Kim Min-jun looked out his window at the busy alien city below. Millions of beings went about their daily lives, unaware that everything was about to change. They believed they knew humanity. They believed they understood what humans were capable of. They were wrong. The human ambassador allowed himself a small smile. After 2 centuries of careful planning, the greatest deception in galactic history was about to end. The galaxy thought it was calling in a debt. Soon, it would learn that humanity had been keeping accounts of its own. Deep beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Facility Omega. The massive underground complex stretched for kilometers in every direction. Thousands of technicians worked at stations that glowed with soft blue light. The air hummed with the power of machines that had been waiting 200 years to wake up. Sarah looked at the main display screen. Green lights appeared across a map of the galaxy, each one marking a human facility coming online. Her weathered face showed satisfaction. The signal from Kim Min-jun had reached every corner of human space. "Status report," Sarah ordered. Commander Lee Dong-wook stepped forward. His uniform bore no rank markings that other species would recognize. Like all humans for the past 2 centuries, he had learned to hide his true capabilities. "All shadow installations are responding, Admiral. The dark space bases report full operational status. Fleet commanders are requesting permission to begin the recall protocol." Sarah nodded. "Begin the recall. It's time our ships came home." She walked to a wall covered in historical displays. Images showed the Terran War from 200 years ago. Most species remembered it as humanity's great defeat. They were wrong. Dr. James Park joined her at the display. The elderly scientist had been young when the war began. Now, his hair was white, but his eyes still burned with the fire of discovery. "Hard to believe it's finally happening," James said quietly. 2 centuries of hiding, of letting them think we were primitive. "It was necessary," Sarah replied. "If they had known what we were really capable of, they would have united against us from the start. Instead, they grew lazy and complacent." The displays showed the truth that the galaxy had never learned. During the Terran War, humans had not destroyed 3 star systems. They had evacuated them. Every man, woman, and child had been secretly moved to safety, using technology that other species didn't know existed. "Show them the real recordings," Sarah ordered. The wall screens changed. Now, they showed the truth of those final days. Massive human ships, far larger and more advanced than anything the galaxy had seen, carefully moving entire populations through dimensional gateways. The explosions that destroyed the star systems had been controlled demolitions. designed to hide the evidence of the evacuation. "We could have won that war in a week," Dr. Park said. "Our technology was already centuries ahead of theirs." "But winning would have made us conquerors," Sarah replied. "We chose a different path. We let them think they had won. We accepted their punishment and their debt. And while they celebrated their victory, we built an empire in the spaces they never thought to look." Colonel Elena Volkov approached the group. Her Slavic features were hard as stone, shaped by decades of covert operations across the galaxy. She had spent 50 years pretending to be a simple human mercenary, while actually commanding the most sophisticated spy network in galactic history. "The sleeper agents are reporting in," Elena said. "Every major government, every military command, every trade network. We have people in all of them. People who have been waiting for this day." Sarah smiled grimly. "How many governments think they've been making their own decisions for the past 200 years? "None of them," Elena replied. "The Zephyrian expansion into the Outer Rim? We guided that to keep them away from our real colonies. The hegemony's military buildup? We sold them the materials and made sure their weapons were always one generation behind ours. The Crystal Collective's trade monopolies? Half their independent merchant captains work for us." Dr. Park pulled up another display. It showed the galaxy's military forces, carefully mapped and analyzed. "Their combined fleets total approximately 50,000 combat vessels," he said. "Impressive by their standards. Of course, they've never seen our real ships. How many do we have in the Shadow Fleet?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. "Active combat vessels? 200,000. Support ships and logistics craft? Another 500,000. All hidden in dimensional fold space, waiting for the recall signal." The numbers were staggering. For 200 years, while the galaxy thought humans were struggling to build a few dozen primitive ships, the real human fleet had been growing in secret. Hidden shipyards in dark space between the galactic arms had been working constantly. Automated factories had built vessels using technology that seemed like magic compared to what other species used. "And the colonies?" Sarah asked. 1,700 inhabited worlds in the Shadow Territories," Elena reported. "Total population approaching 2 trillion. All of them eager to finally reveal themselves to the galaxy that thought humanity was dying out." Sarah walked to the center of the command room. Around her, displays showed the true scope of human civilization. It dwarfed anything the known galaxy had ever seen. While other species had been fighting over the scraps of explored space, humans had been quietly claiming entire regions that no one else even knew existed. "Begin Phase 1 of the revelation," Sarah ordered. "I want every major power to know that something is coming, but not what. Let them wonder. Let them worry." Across the galaxy, human agents began their work. On Zephyrian Prime, a simple maintenance worker named Park Soo-jin walked into the planet's main defense center. Her identification showed her as a low-level technician. The computer systems she accessed told a different story. Within minutes, she had complete control of the planet's early warning network. On hegemony worlds, humans who had pretended to be refugees for decades suddenly revealed their true capabilities. Dr. Lisa Yang, who had spent 50 years as a captured human scientist working in alien laboratories, calmly walked out of her research facility as security systems shut down around her. In the Crystal Collective's trading stations, human merchants, who had seemed desperate to sell Earth's primitive goods, suddenly stopped taking orders. Instead, they began quietly buying up strategic resources using credits that appeared from nowhere. Back in Facility Omega, Sarah watched the reports come in. Every major power was starting to notice unusual activity. Their long-range sensors were detecting energy signatures that shouldn't exist. Their intelligence networks were reporting strange behavior from humans across the galaxy. "How long before they figure it out?" Dr. Park asked. "They won't," Sarah replied confidently. "They've spent 200 years believing humans are primitive and weak. That belief is too strong to break with just strange readings and odd behavior. They'll find excuses. They'll rationalize what they're seeing until it's too late. A new signal appeared on the main screen. It came from Zirion Prime, where Kim Min-jun was waiting for his final audience with the Galactic Council. 18 hours until the deadline, Elena reported. The Council expects humanity to surrender Earth and accept the partition of our colonies. Sarah's expression hardened. For 2 centuries, she had watched alien species commit atrocities against human settlements. She had seen humans enslaved, experimented on, and murdered while the galaxy celebrated its victory over the primitive Earthers. The debt they spoke of was nothing compared to the crimes they had committed. Signal all fleet commanders, Sarah ordered. Begin the final approach. It's time the galaxy learned what humanity has really been doing for the past 200 years. Around the galaxy, in spaces so dark and empty that no other species had ever thought to look, massive ships began to move. They emerged from dimensional hiding places, like ghosts becoming solid. The Shadow Fleet was coming home, and when it arrived, the galaxy's understanding of power would change forever. The countdown to revelation had begun. The Galactic Council chamber filled once again. Chancellor Vex Tar sat on his throne, golden robes flowing around his tall blue form. He smiled with satisfaction. The 72 hours were up, and soon humanity would surrender completely. Admiral Korthak leaned forward in his seat, massive claws gripping the armrests. His reptilian eyes gleamed with anticipation. Where is the primitive? Has he run home to hide on his mud world? The human will come, Vex Tar said confidently. They always do what they're told in the end. Around the chamber, representatives from 100 species waited. Some looked eager to claim their share of human colonies. Others seemed bored, as if watching the execution of an insect. None of them noticed the subtle changes in their security systems, or the fact that several of their own guards had been replaced during the night. The main doors opened. Kim Min-jun walked in. But he was not alone. Behind him came a woman in a dark uniform that looked nothing like the simple clothes humans usually wore. Her bearing was military, confident, dangerous. Honorable Council, Kim Min-jun said as he reached the center of the chamber. I present Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. Laughter rippled through the crowd. The Terran Defense Force was supposed to be a small collection of obsolete ships barely capable of defending Earth itself. Defense Force? Chancellor Vex Tar chuckled. You mean those dozen rust buckets orbiting your world? What defense could they possibly offer against the might of the galaxy? Sarah Chen stepped forward. Unlike Kim Min-jun, who had always been careful to appear humble, she stood straight and proud. Her dark eyes swept across the assembled aliens with no trace of fear. The ships orbiting Earth are indeed obsolete, she said calmly. They were never intended to be our real defense. They were a mask, designed to hide our true capabilities while we prepared for this day. What nonsense is this? Admiral Korthak snarled. Humans have no capabilities worth hiding. Kim Min-jun reached into his jacket and pulled out a data pad. Honorable Council, before we discuss our supposed debt, I believe there are other accounts that need to be settled. He activated the pad, and holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber. The images showed human colonies under attack, human civilians being taken as slaves, human children being sold in alien markets. For 200 years. Kim Min-jun said, his voice growing harder. You have committed crimes against humanity. You have enslaved our people, experimented on our children, and stolen our resources while claiming we owed you payment for damages we never caused. Lies. Chancellor Vex Tar stood up, his face darkening with anger. The humans destroyed 3 star systems. Billions died. Sarah Chen smiled, and the expression was not pleasant. Admiral Korthak, how many survivors were found after those systems were destroyed? The reptilian warrior paused. Survivors? There were no survivors. Everyone died. Strange, Sarah continued. 3 star systems, each with populations in the billions, and not a single body was ever found. No wreckage from civilian ships trying to escape. No distress signals recorded, almost as if everyone had already left before the explosions occurred. The chamber grew quiet. Several council members looked uncertain for the first time. Kim Min-jun activated another display. This one showed the truth of the Terran War. Massive human ships evacuating entire populations through dimensional gateways. The controlled demolitions that destroyed empty star systems to hide the evidence. We saved everyone, Kim Min-jun said quietly. Every man, woman, and child, from those 3 systems, lives safely in our colonies beyond your reach. The only things that died were empty worlds that we sacrificed to maintain our secret. Impossible, Vextar whispered. Your technology is primitive. You cannot create dimensional gateways. Sarah Chen pressed a button on her wrist communicator. Shadow Fleet Command. This is Admiral Chen. Execute Revelation Protocol. The lights in the chamber flickered. Emergency alarms began sounding throughout the station. On the main viewing screen, space around Zerion Prime suddenly filled with ships. But these were not the small, crude vessels the galaxy associated with humanity. These ships were massive, sleek, and clearly far more advanced than anything in the galactic fleet. They appeared from nowhere, as if materializing out of empty space itself. Dimensional fold drives, Sarah explained casually as alien delegates stared in shock at the screen. We've been using them for 2 centuries. While you were congratulating yourselves on defeating us, we were building an empire in the dark spaces between your systems. Chancellor Vextar's face went pale. How many ships? In this system? Only a few thousand. We didn't want to overcrowd your local space. Sarah's smile grew wider. The full Shadow Fleet numbers in the hundreds of thousands. Admiral Korthak roared in fury and activated his communicator. All hegemony forces, attack the human ships immediately. I wouldn't recommend that, Sarah said calmly, but please, feel free to try. On the viewing screen, the assembled delegates watched as Korthak's fleet of 500 warships moved to engage the human vessels. The hegemony ships were massive, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. The human ships didn't even fire back. Instead, a soft blue glow surrounded each enemy vessel. Within seconds, the hegemony ships simply stopped moving. Their engines died, their weapons powered down, and their communications went silent. Quantum disruption fields, Dr. James Park's voice came over the communication system. We can disable entire fleets without firing a shot. Of course, if we wanted to destroy them, that would be even easier. End quote. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted questions, demands, and threats. Some tried to contact their own fleets, only to discover their communications were being blocked. Kim Min-jun's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Silence. The word echoed with such authority that every being in the chamber stopped talking. For a moment, the human's mask of humility had fallen completely away, revealing something far more dangerous underneath. For 200 years, you have treated humanity as your inferiors, Kim Min-jun said. You have enslaved us, robbed us, and murdered us while claiming moral superiority. You speak of a debt we owe you. But what about the debt you owe us? He gestured to the datapad, and new images appeared. Human colonies in chains. Alien slave markets selling human children. Research facilities where humans were dissected alive for scientific study. The debt you claim we owe is 500 trillion credits, Kim Min-jun continued. The debt you owe us for 2 centuries of crimes against our species is considerably larger. Sarah Chen stepped forward again. The Terran Federation hereby rejects your fraudulent debt claim. Instead, We demand immediate reparations for galactic war crimes totaling 2,000 trillion credits. We also demand the immediate dissolution of this corrupt council and the establishment of a new galactic government based on actual justice. You cannot make demands, Vextar shrieked. You are primitives, inferiors. We tried being diplomats, Sarah replied. We tried being patient. We tried being forgiving. But you mistook our restraint for weakness. That ends today. She pressed another button, and the viewing screen split to show scenes from across the galaxy. On world after world, human agents were revealing themselves. Defense grids shut down as humans who had pretended to be maintenance workers took control. Slave markets found their security forces replaced overnight. Government officials discovered that their most trusted advisors had been working for humanity all along. You wanted to see human capabilities, Sarah said. Here they are. We have been inside your governments, your militaries, your trade networks, for 2 centuries. We know every secret, every weakness, every fear. We could have conquered you at any time. Instead, we chose to wait until you revealed your true nature. Admiral Korthak tried to speak, but found his voice gone. A small device on his collar glowed softly. Around the chamber, similar devices activated on dozens of other delegates. Vocal suppressors, Sarah explained. We've been preparing for this day for a very long time. Those of you wearing the devices have been identified as war criminals. You will remain silent until your trials begin. Kim Min-jun looked around the chamber at the faces of fear and shock. The age of galactic oppression is over. Humanity is calling in its real debt today. And unlike your fraudulent claims, our accounting is perfect. Outside, the human fleet continued to arrive through dimensional portals. Each ship was a reminder that the galaxy had been living next to a sleeping giant. Now the giant was awake, and it was very, very angry. Dr. Lisa Yang walked calmly through the corridors of the Hegemony Research Institute on Korth Prime. For 50 years, she had been a prisoner here, forced to work on alien experiments while pretending to be a simple human scientist. Today, the pretense was over. The alarm systems screamed around her, but the doors opened at her approach. Security guards ran past, shouting orders in panic. But none of them paid attention to the small human woman who had been part of the furniture for so long. Lisa reached the main computer core and placed her hand on the scanner. Instead of rejecting her access, as it should have, the system welcomed her with full administrative privileges. For decades, she had been secretly installing human technology throughout the facility. Computer, execute Protocol 7, she said quietly. Acknowledged, Director Yang. The computer replied in perfect English. Initiating. Facility, liberation, sequence. Across the planet, similar scenes played out. Humans, who had spent their entire lives pretending to be refugees, slaves, or simple workers, suddenly revealed their true capabilities. Defense networks that had protected alien worlds for generations turned against their creators as human agents took control. On the bridge of her command ship in orbit above Zirion Prime, Admiral Sarah Chen watched reports stream in from across the galaxy. Each green indicator on her display represented another world where human sleeper agents had successfully completed their missions. Status report, Commander Lee, she ordered. Commander Lee Dong-wook stood at attention beside her chair. Operation Revelation is proceeding ahead of schedule, Admiral. 73% of target facilities are now under our control. Enemy communications networks are down across 15 major systems. Sarah nodded with satisfaction. And the slave markets? All primary markets have been secured. We estimate 3 million humans have been freed in the first 6 hours. Recovery teams are providing medical aid and transportation to safety. Colonel Elena Volkov approached from the intelligence station. Her face was grim but determined. Admiral, we're receiving surrender offers from several minor governments. The Crystalline Collective, the Outer Rim Alliance, and the Merchants Guild, are all requesting immediate negotiations. What about the major powers? The Zephyrian hegemony and the Void-touched Empire are mobilizing their remaining fleets. They're forming a joint task force under Admiral Korthak's command. Elena paused. They're calling it the last hope of galactic civilization. Sarah laughed, a sound with no humor in it. Civilization? Is that what they call 2 centuries of slavery and murder? On the viewing screen, she could see the alien fleets gathering. Thousands of ships from a dozen different species, all united by their hatred and fear of humanity. They had never worked together before, but the revelation of human power had finally forced them into cooperation. How many ships in their combined fleet? Sarah asked. Approximately 12,000 combat vessels, Elena replied. It's the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. And how many ships do we have in this system? 4,000, Admiral. But reinforcements are arriving through the dimensional gateways every few minutes. Sarah studied the tactical display. The alien fleet was impressive by their standards. Their ships were large, heavily armed, and crewed by experienced warriors. Under normal circumstances, they might have been a threat to humanity's revealed forces. But these were not normal circumstances. Signal all human agents on the enemy ships, Sarah ordered. Begin. Phase 2. Across the alien fleet, humans who had served as crew members, technicians, and even officers for decades received the signal. On the Zephyrian flagship, Chief Engineer Park Min-ho, who had spent 30 years maintaining the ship's engines, calmly walked to the power core and began entering shutdown codes. On a hegemony dreadnought, Dr. Kim So-young, the ship's medical officer, released a harmless but fast-acting sedative into the air recycling system. Within minutes, the entire crew was unconscious. Throughout the enemy fleet, similar acts of sabotage occurred simultaneously. Weapons systems failed, engines shut down, and communication arrays went dark. Ships that had been preparing for the battle of their lives suddenly found themselves dead in space. Report! Admiral Korthak roared on the bridge of his command ship. Why are my ships going offline? Go! His communications officer, a young hegemony warrior, worked frantically at his station. I don't understand, sir. Every ship is reporting system failures. It's as if someone is shutting them down from the inside. Korthak's blood ran cold as the truth hit him. The humans. They have agents on our ships. Impossible, his first officer protested. We screen every crew member carefully. We would know if there were human infiltrators. Would we? Korthak asked quietly. How many beings have served on this ship for years without question? How many have we trusted with our lives? Before anyone could answer, the bridge doors opened. Chief Engineer Park Min-ho entered, no longer wearing his hegemony uniform. Instead, he wore the dark blue of the Terran Defense Force, with rank insignia that marked him as a full colonel. Admiral Korthak, Park said politely in perfect hegemony standard. I am Colonel Park Min-ho of Terran Intelligence. I am here to formally accept your surrender. Korthak reached for his weapon, but found his hand wouldn't move. A small device on his collar had activated, temporarily paralyzing his nervous system. You have been charged with crimes against humanity, Park continued. Specifically, the enslavement and murder of human civilians, the operation of illegal research facilities, and the trafficking of sentient beings. You will be transported to a human facility to await trial. This is impossible. Korthak gasped. You've been here for 30 years. I've watched you work. I've trusted you with my ship. And I have served faithfully, Park replied. I kept your engines running perfectly, maintained your life support systems, and even saved the ship during the Void War. The fact that I was also gathering intelligence and preparing for this day does not change my service record. Similar scenes played out throughout the enemy fleet. Humans who had been hiding among alien crews for decades finally revealed themselves. Some had been simple technicians. Others had held positions of high command. All of them had been waiting for this moment. Back on Admiral Sarah's command ship, the reports continued to come in. The great alien fleet, assembled to crush humanity once and for all, had been neutralized without firing a shot. "Admiral," Commander Lee reported, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth. President Kim wants to address the galaxy directly." Sarah nodded. "Put it through on all frequencies." It's time the galaxy heard the truth. The image of President Kim Tae-hyung appeared on screens throughout galactic space. He was an elderly man with kind eyes, but his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "People of the galaxy," the president began. "For 200 years, humanity has lived among you in secret. We have been your servants, your workers, your researchers, and your friends. We have served faithfully while you committed crimes against our species that would make the ancient tyrants weep." The president's image was replaced by recordings from human surveillance networks. 2 centuries of alien crimes played out for all to see. Slave markets, research facilities, mass executions, and countless other horrors that the major powers had tried to hide. "We could have revealed ourselves at any time," the president continued. "We could have conquered you, enslaved you, or destroyed you as you did to us. Instead, we chose patience. We chose to document your crimes and wait for the day when justice could be served properly." On 1,000 worlds, alien populations watched in stunned silence as the scope of human infiltration became clear. Their governments had been influenced by human agents for generations. Their military forces had been compromised from within. Their entire understanding of power and control was crumbling. "Today, that patience ends," President Kim said. "The debt you claimed we owed has been rejected. The debt you owe us will be collected. And the galaxy will finally learn what justice looks like when it is served by those with both the power and the moral authority to enforce it." Admiral Sarah turned to Elena. "Begin the liberation operations. Free every human slave, shut down every illegal facility, and arrest every war criminal. It's time to settle our accounts with interest." Across the galaxy, the true scope of human power revealed itself. Hidden fleets emerged from dark space. Secret bases activated on 1,000 worlds. The species that had ruled through fear and oppression for millennia suddenly found themselves facing a force they had never imagined possible. The day of reckoning had finally arrived, and humanity's patience had run out. The Omega weapon fired from the hidden void touched base in the Magellan cluster. It was a planet killer created by an extinct race, a weapon of such power that it could turn entire star systems to dust. The desperate alliance of surviving alien governments had activated it as their final hope against humanity. The massive energy beam crossed space in seconds, aimed directly at Earth. Every sensor in the galaxy tracked its path. This was the weapon that would end the human threat, once and for all. The beam struck Earth and passed harmlessly through it. On the bridge of her flagship, Admiral Sarah Chen smiled as she watched the confused reports from alien observers. "Holographic projection successful. Dr. Park?" Dr. James Park's voice came through the communication system, tinged with amusement. "Perfect execution, Admiral. The real Earth is safely hidden in dimensional fold space. Exactly where we moved it 30 years ago. The planet they just attacked was nothing but light and sensor shadows." Kim Min-jun, still on Zerion Prime but now revealed as Fleet Admiral of the Shadow Navy, addressed the stunned Galactic Council through the communications array. "Honorable former council members," he said, his voice carrying across the galaxy. "I believe you have just demonstrated why humanity could never trust your species with real power. Your first instinct, when faced with evidence of your own crimes, was to attempt genocide." Chancellor Vex Tar stared at the tactical display in horror. "Impossible. Our sensors showed Earth was there. Our targeting systems locked onto it. Your sensors showed you what we wanted them to show," Kim replied calmly. "The same way our technology has been invisible to your scanners for 2 centuries. We have been 3 steps ahead of you from the beginning. Admiral Korthak, still paralyzed in his chair, could only watch as his final gambit failed completely. The weapon that was supposed to save galactic civilization had struck nothing but empty space. On screens throughout the galaxy, President Kim Tae-hyang appeared again. But this time, he was not alone. Behind him stood representatives from dozens of alien species, all of them wearing human military uniforms. "People of the galaxy," the president said, "I want you to meet some friends. These are the representatives of species that chose cooperation over oppression, peace over slavery, justice over profit." The camera focused on individual faces. A crystalline collective merchant who had secretly helped free human slaves. A young Zephyrian officer who had refused orders to attack human colonies. An engineer from the Outer Rim who had shared technology freely instead of hoarding it. For 200 years, while your governments committed crimes against humanity, these individuals and their peoples chose a different path. They will be rewarded for their choices. President Kim's expression grew stern. But make no mistake about our intentions. The Galactic Council, as you knew it, is dissolved. Effective immediately. The corrupt governments that have ruled through fear and oppression are ended. A new order begins today. The screen showed images of massive human installations appearing throughout the galaxy. Not weapons, platforms, or military bases, but hospitals, schools, and research facilities. Ships filled with medical supplies and food were already en route to worlds that had suffered under the old regime. The Terran Commonwealth is established today, the president announced. All species that wish to join in good faith are welcome. Those that choose to continue the old ways of slavery and oppression will find themselves alone in the dark. On Zirion Prime, Kim Min-jun turned to address the former council members directly. You have 3 choices. First, you can surrender unconditionally and submit to trials for your crimes. Those found guilty will serve appropriate sentences, but will be treated humanely. Several of the smaller species representatives immediately stood up, hands raised in surrender. They had seen enough of human capabilities to know resistance was impossible. Your second choice, Kim continued, is to flee to the outer darkness beyond our reach. We will not pursue you, but you will never be welcome in civilized space again. About a third of the remaining delegates chose this option, activating personal transport devices to beam to their ships. Within minutes, they were fleeing toward the galactic edge, hoping to find sanctuary among the barbarian worlds beyond human influence. Your third choice, Kim said, his voice growing cold, is to continue fighting. I do not recommend this option. Chancellor Vextar rose from his throne, his golden robes trembling with rage. You think you have won, humans? You think your tricks and deceptions make you worthy to rule? We are the inheritors of 1,000-year-old civilizations. We are the children of gods. Kim Min-jun's expression didn't change. You are slavers and murderers who mistake cruelty for strength, and your time is over. Admiral Sarah Chen's voice echoed through the chamber. Chancellor, Vextar, you are under arrest for crimes against humanity. Specifically, the operation of slave markets on 17 worlds, the trafficking of human children, and the authorized torture of prisoners of war. I will never submit to primitive humans, Vextar screamed. I am the heir to the Zephyrian Empire. The Zephyrian Empire ended 5 minutes ago, Sarah replied calmly. Your homeworld has surrendered to Terran forces. Your fleet is disabled. Your government has been dissolved. You are the heir to nothing but a cell on a prison world. As if to emphasize her point, human soldiers in advanced combat armor materialized in the chamber. They moved with perfect coordination, surrounding the remaining hostile delegates with weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. Dr. Lisa Yang's voice came over the communication system from the liberated research facility on Korth Prime. Admiral Chen, We've completed the rescue operations. 3.7 million humans have been freed from slavery. Medical teams are providing treatment for torture victims and experimental subjects. Thank you, Dr. Yang. Begin the reconstruction phase immediately. Those worlds that cooperated with the liberation will receive full support. Those that resisted will be placed under Terran administration until they demonstrate readiness for self-government. Kim Min-jun walked to the center of the chamber, addressing not just the former council, but the galaxy itself. For 2 centuries, humanity has been seen as weak, primitive, and inferior. You mocked our simple ships, our basic technology, our peaceful nature. You mistook restraint for weakness and patience for stupidity. The main viewing screen showed the true scale of human civilization. Massive cities on worlds no other species knew existed. Fleets of ships that dwarfed anything in the known galaxy. Populations numbering in the trillions, all hidden in the dark spaces between the stars. The truth is that humanity never lost the Terran War, Kim continued. We ended it by choice. We could have conquered the galaxy then, but we chose to wait. We wanted to see what you would do with freedom. We hoped you would choose wisdom, justice, and peace. His voice grew sad. You chose slavery, oppression, and cruelty instead. You have spent 200 years proving that you were not ready to govern yourselves, much less rule others. President Kim appeared on the screen one final time. The age of galactic chaos is over. The age of Terran guidance begins. Those species that prove themselves capable of justice and mercy will be granted full autonomy within the Commonwealth. Those that continue to choose violence and oppression will be guided more firmly until they learn better. He paused, looking directly into the camera. And for those who think this is merely one species dominating others, I remind you that humanity has had the power to do that for 2 centuries. We chose patience instead. We chose justice instead. We chose to be guardians, rather than conquerors. The screen showed images of human fleets arriving at worlds throughout the galaxy. But instead of conquest, they brought aid. Medical supplies for plague-stricken worlds. Food for populations that had been starved by their own governments. Technology to repair damage from centuries of warfare. This is what real strength looks like, President Kim said. Not the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to know when to show mercy and when to be firm. The galaxy will learn the difference between tyranny and justice, between oppression and guidance, between conquest and protection. Kim Min-jun looked around the chamber one last time. Most of the former council members had surrendered or fled. Only a few hardliners remained, stubbornly clinging to their delusions of superiority. The debt has been settled, he said quietly. Not the false debt you claimed we owed, but the real debt owed to every human who suffered under your rule. Justice has been served. Mercy has been offered. And the galaxy has a chance to begin again. In the distance, long-range sensors detected the first signs of movement from beyond the galactic edge. Something vast and hostile was stirring in the dark spaces between galaxies, drawn by the energy signatures of the recent conflict. Kim Min-jun smiled grimly as he read the reports. The alien governments had never known about the real threat that was coming. They had been too busy fighting among themselves to notice the signs that human scientists had detected decades ago. Prepare the fleet, he ordered quietly. The real war is about to begin. And this time, the galaxy will be grateful to have humanity watching over them. The day humans settled their debt was over. The age of human guardianship had begun. And in the darkness, beyond the stars, ancient enemies stirred, not knowing that the galaxy they sought to conquer was no longer defenseless. Humanity had never been the galaxy's debtors. They had always been its protectors. And now, finally, the galaxy would understand why that had been necessary all along.